This is journal page 32, section 2.2, adding rational numbers. So number one, with this, we're just really combining addition of integers, those rules. Remember, same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract, keep the sign of the larger absolute value. And we're combining that with our fraction rules and our decimal rules that we learned in 4th or 5th grade. So here we go. So we have negative 4/5 plus 3/20. So a couple of different things here. The first thing we'll do is get common denominators. So we'll just use 20 for the common denominator. 3/20 gets to stay 3/20. And we multiply the bottom by 4 here, so we multiply the top by 4 and get 16. Remember, it's still negative out here. So now I have common denominators. I can do this. Different signs, though. So remember, different signs, I subtract these values, and I would get 13 over 20. And then I keep the sign of whichever one had a larger value. My negative had the larger value here, so it would be negative 13 over 20. Number 2. Negative 8 plus negative 6 over 7. Well, here, I don't need to go common denominators because same sign, add and keep. Well, 8 plus 6/7 is just 8 and 6/7. Same sign, add and keep. What am I keeping? I'm keeping that common sign, which in this case is negative. Number 3. 1 and 2/15 plus a negative 3 and 1/2. So I'm going to turn both of these into improper fractions on this one. So 15 times 1 is 15 plus 2 is 17. So I have 17/15 plus my negative here. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7 halves. A common denominator I can use is 30. So I'm going to turn this into 30 plus 30. This will stay negative on this one. And I had to multiply 15 by 2 to get 30, so 17 times 2 is 34. I had to multiply 2 by 15 to get 30. 15 times 7. Yikes, 15 times 7 would be 60 and 45, 105. Now, same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. These are different signs, so I'm subtracting. But my denominator will still be 30. And 105 minus 34, well, 105 minus 30 would be 75, minus 4 more, 71. And 105 over 30 is larger than 34 over 30, so it keeps its sign of negative, negative 31 over 30. If you wanted to turn that back into a mixed number, you could have negative 2 and 11/30, but I'm going to keep it just as is. Number 4. Negative 1 over 6 plus a negative 5 over 12. Got to go common denominator here. 12 works very well. Negative 5/12 stays negative 5/12. Negative 1/6. Multiply the bottom by 2, multiply the top by 2, negative 2 over 12. And now I can add same sign, so I add and keep. Negative 2/12 plus negative 5/12 is negative 7/12. Number 5. 9/10 plus negative 3. Well, if I didn't know how to just do this difference here, I would look for a common denominator. But this one doesn't have a denominator, so I can always put it over 1. All right, now I'm still looking for a common denominator. 10 will work very well. So 9 over over 10 plus negative. To make that bottom a 10, I multiply 1 by 10. So I have to multiply the top by 10, and I'll have 30. All right, so now I have got common denominators. Different signs, so I subtract. 30 minus 9 is 21 over 10. And my negative had the larger absolute value, so I keep this negative. Negative 21 tenths. I could turn it into a mixed number and have negative 2 and 1/10. And some people would have gone right to the original and said, well, if I have 3 and I have 9/10 and I subtract those, I'll get 2 and 1/10. And that's fine too. But it would be negative because the negative was the larger value. Good, but the answer is negative 21 over 10. Number 6. So I'm going to go up here, do number 6. Negative 5 3/4 plus negative 4 5/6. All right, so I could just go common denominators and add and have mixed numbers, but I just like to turn them into improper fractions. So this would be 23 over 4, negative of course. So negative 23 over 4 plus a negative 24 plus 5 is 29 over 6. Now I can look for a common denominator. A common denominator that would be easy to find is just multiply those two and get 24. However, I know 4 and 6 can both go into 12. So I'm going to use 12 for my common denominator. They'll both still be negative. And 4 times 3 is how I get 12. 23 times 3 is 69. 6 times 2 is how I get 12. 29 times 2 is 58. So now I have negative 69 twelfths plus negative 58 twelfths. Common denominator, good. Same sign, both negative, so I add the numbers and keep the sign, so I'm going to keep the negative. It'll still be over 12, and 69 plus 58 would be 127. 127. If you did this differently and added them as mixed numbers, you could have ended up with negative 10 7/12, which is the same answer here. Different form. Number 7. Now I'm adding with decimals. We'll remember that we have to line up the decimals. That goes back to like 3rd or 4th grade. And I'm going to look here before I even write it down. I have different signs, so I know I'm going to subtract. When I subtract, I know I want this larger absolute value on top. So I'm going to put that on top right now. 0.642 or 642 thousandths and 0.46 or 46 hundredths. And this one is negative, ding. This one is positive, ding. So I have to subtract, different signs subtract. I like to fill this in with a 0. It's not needed here. 2 minus 0 is 2. 4 minus 6 I can't do. But 14 minus 6 I can, that's 8. 5 minus 4 is 1. Decimal, 0. And I look, and the larger one was the negative, so this stays negative, negative 0 and 182 thousandths. Number 8. Again, different sign, so I know I'm going to subtract. Since I'm going to subtract, I'm going to put this 5 7/10 on top. And the 0 and 13 hundredths on bottom. This one is positive, this one is negative. I'm going to fill this in with a 0. It is needed this time. Different sign, so I'm subtracting. Then I have to borrow. 10 minus 3 is 7. 6 minus 1 is 5. Bring down the decimal. 5 minus 0 is 5. And my negative had the larger absolute value. My 5.7 was negative, so my answer is negative. Negative 5 and 57 hundredths. Number 9. This time, same sign, so I'm going to add and keep. It doesn't really matter which one I put on top. So I'll put 2 and 57 hundredths on top. followed by 3 and 48 hundredths. They're both negatives, so I'm going to add these up and keep my answer negative. So 15, 10, 6, and negative 6 and 5 hundredths. Negative because same sign, add and keep. So it would be negative. Number 10. Before a race, you start 4 and 5/8 feet behind your friend. Halfway, you are 3 and 2/3 ahead of your friend. What's the change in distance between you and your friend from the beginning of the race? Well, you started from behind your friend and you caught up and then you passed. So that's going to be a positive and a positive, which is same sign, add and keep. So I've got 4 and 5/8 plus 3 and 2/3. If your friend was doing the same thing, change in distance between you and your friend. Well, distance can't be negative, so your friend would actually get the same answer. They would both seem like they'd be negatives, but at the end we'd make it positive because it's a distance. But who cares? This is about us, not them. We're going to go improper fractions. So 32 and 5 is 37/8 plus 9, 10, 11 thirds. Common denominator, we can just go 24ths. Multiplied by 8 on this side to get to 24, so 11 times 8 is 88. Multiplied by 3 over here, so 37 times 3 would be 111. 90 and 21, yeah, 111. Add those up, and I'm going to get 199/24 feet. Well, this doesn't really make sense to keep in a improper fraction like this. Okay, so we're not going to keep it in an improper fraction. We're going to turn it back into a mixed number because we're talking about feet here. So we are going to divide by 24. 24 goes into 100. Well, this is really close to 25. I know 25 goes into 100 4 times, so this is really close to 200. It'll go into 208 times. 24 goes into 199. I'm going to put an arrow up here. 8 times with 7 left over. 7/24. So 8 and 7/24 feet. If you wanted to go into inches, we could do a little something there. Give it a try if you want, but we're going to leave it 8 and 7/24 feet. Well, I hope that helped. If you have any questions or you have any concerns, please ask questions in class, show up to tutoring, come to my seminar, whatever you have to do. Email me, leave a comment in this video, whatever it takes to get your questions answered. Have a great day.